This question's a little annoying, but I think it's actually really easy to understand what it's asking. And I think a lot of people just get overwhelmed by the way it looks, but it should trigger something in your mind, right? We have a quadratic. We see that it has solutions with a radical in them. Everybody, by the time they're taking the SAT, has learned quadratic formula and worked with it a bunch. Even if you're not super confident in it, you should at least be able to recognize that that's what they're testing here, right? The solutions of anything don't look this weird normally, but remember, quadratic formula has a lot of weird pieces, and so it kind of produces this weird result. So I don't know, I think it's pretty easy to get in that frame of mind, and then, yeah, you gotta know quadratic formula and how to simplify it, but at the very least, you kind of are on the right track, and hopefully your robot brain kicks in, and you can just kind of go from there. So let's take a look. In this case, what we're gonna need to do is take this equation and start plugging in for A, B, and C in the quadratic formula. So just to summarize what's going on here, A is 1, that's the number in front of the x squared, B is gonna be -6, and C is 2. So the quadratic formula, I'm gonna say it as I put the numbers in. So -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now it is time to simplify. So I usually start here. Let's clean up that negative. That's a 6. Then underneath, we've got a bunch of things to do. So here we go. It's going to be 36 minus 8. And then on the bottom, I can just make that a 2. So we're getting somewhere. Now I would say, okay, 6 plus or minus the square root, 36 minus 8 is 28, and that's over 2. Now, this is where people tend to mess up. Some of them have already messed up because they've divided the 6 by the 2. We can't do that until everything is simplified. That fraction is a division, right? So in the same way that we can't multiply one term, we have to distribute multiplication, we also need to distribute division. This is distribution, basically. We need to wait until that radical is fully simplified before we deal with the division. So the way it's going to work is we're going to take the 28, and this is how I kind of teach my students to do simplifying radicals, is you break it into its parts. So 28 is hopefully, 7 times 4, and then 4 is 2 times 2, but 7 is prime. What you're looking for a square root is to make pairs. Any pair of numbers comes out as a single 2. So the stuff that doesn't have a pair gets left behind. So basically what's going to happen here is we're going to have 6 plus or minus, the 2 comes out, the 7 stays behind, and then it's all over 2. So when we have a pair inside, it comes out as a single. That's the one thing to remember. Now we can simplify because we have a 2 that we can divide into both parts of this top piece. So that is going to get us 3 plus or minus, that 2 would cancel, radical 7. And look at what we had. We had 3 plus radical c, 3 minus radical c. So there are our 2 solutions, and c is 7. That is my answer. This is a tedious question. Hopefully, though, if you saw this on the test, you would at least be able to eliminate one answer choice, and that is choice A. A lot of people pick this because they remember, and we kind of did this actually, that the C term, when we think about standard form, is the last number, right? So here, this C as 2, but this question is obviously more confusing than that. You'd be in a section where you'd know it's near the end of a section too, and it's supposed to be harder. So hopefully that would clue you in as well. But it's just way too simple to just point to one number in an equation on what's clearly a hard question. There's going to be more work here. So you'd be able to cross that out and then hopefully just guess from what's left. And yeah, you won't get it right if you guess, every time, but you'll at least have increased your odds by eliminating the trap answer. That's a smart way to think about the really complex stuff on the SAT. Where are you in the section? If an answer is too easy for a really hard question, cross it out, guess something else.